If you'd have asked me, 12 months, 2 years ago, perhaps, about Keir Starmer, remember I've been a Labour MP, I've met Keir a couple of times, and I've chatted with him, etc. And I would have said 2 years ago, fairly decent guy, bit to the left for me, but not a bad guy. But now, having seen what's happened since he came to power, I have never been more disappointed. And for him to use the word principles, I think is rich coming from Keir Starmer. I mean, the hypocrisy from all of this, we had to listen to his sanctimonious rants about Boris Johnson for years. And as soon as he is in office or near to it, he's just taking freebies left, right and centre. I have never been more disappointed in a politician than I have been in him. As regard Ali, he has questions to answer. I mean, he's under investigation by the House of Lords. I don't think it's going to end well for either of them.
Have you heard that a surge of frustration has arisen inside the Labour Party toward Keir Starmer? And what unfolds when those very Labour members who once backed Starmer in every matter begin to pull away? In this situation, they not only express their anger but also expose the inner workings of the organisation, disclosing Starmer's private dealings that could destroy his political future. From Tulip Siddick, the ex-Treasury Minister, to Dan Carden, Rosie Duffield, Andy MacDonald, and several other lawmakers who were either dismissed or turned against Starmer, we gain hidden perspectives on the organisation and the way he handles affairs. What these furious Labour figures have disclosed has driven Starmer to madness, covering his face and desperately attempting to suppress them.
Let me be very clear about that. Jeremy Corbyn will not stand for Labour at the next general election as a Labour Party candidate. What I said about the party changing, I meant, and we are not going back. And that is why Jeremy Corbyn will not stand as a Labour candidate at the next general election. Thank you, Alex.
But what exactly did they expose? In this video, let's uncover it. Keir Starmer's command, both as head of the Labour Party and now as Prime Minister, has been tainted by inner conflict, scandals, and acts of disloyalty from his own circle. Moreover, the compelled departures meant to protect the group's image further demonstrate how Starmer has transformed the Labour movement into an instrument serving his personal agenda.
Even with evidence mounting against Keir, some were so angry with Boris over Watergate, Wallpapergate, Partygate, Animalgate, to even question the integrity of Sir Keir Starmer. And those of us who did were seen as far right. Well, here he is, folks, our great leader. It's fascinating listening to people trying to excuse his behaviour and that of his close Labour allies. You can almost see the mental gymnastics that they use to try and excuse him. So whilst things have got worse for us, they certainly got better for Keir and his greedy clan. Absolutely disgraceful and utter hypocrite.
The departures of Tulip Siddick and Louise Hay highlight how Starmer truly manages the party and selects his cabinet. Siddick's exit as the anti-corruption minister, even after being cleared of breaching the ministerial code, sparked deep concerns about her selection. Her widely recognized family connection to Sheikh Hasina, the former Bangladeshi premier accused of graft, human rights abuses, and forced disappearances, stood out as obvious warning signs. Starmer's choice to bring Siddick into office despite those links indicates a preference for political advantage, especially considering the sway of Bangladeshi voters in crucial constituencies, including his own, over moral responsibility.
Mr. Speaker, at a time of turmoil in the markets, the Prime Minister was distracted by the crisis around the former City Minister. What does it tell us about his judgment that yesterday he said he was saddened that his close friend resigned? This was an anti-corruption minister under criminal investigation for corruption. Mohammed Yunus, the Nobel Prize winner advising Bangladesh, said London properties gifted to the former city minister may be proceeds of robbery. So, will the Prime Minister offer Bangladesh the full support of our National Crime Agency in ensuring that any properties bought with stolen funds?
The instant it emerged that Tulip Siddick's London properties were allegedly purchased through illicit funds, she was compelled to step down. This move aimed to evade scrutiny, shielding Siddick from inquiry and distancing the Labour Party from any connection to the scandal.
Mr. Speaker, he did not answer the question about the National Crime Agency. No answer to investigating dodgy Labour ministers, just as last week he didn't want an inquiry that might expose dodgy Labour councils. The Prime Minister knowingly appointed a convicted fraudster as his transport secretary. The anti-corruption minister he had full confidence in only days ago resigned yesterday in disgrace.
However, this appointment was far from an isolated case. Hayes' departure as transport minister further exposes the weaknesses in Starmer's method. Her decade-old fraud conviction resurfaced, haunting both her and the Labour administration. Although Hay asserted that Starmer knew of her record when she joined his shadow cabinet, the absence of confirmation from Downing Street raises doubts about openness. This episode underscores not only a breakdown in screening but also a wider problem regarding how Starmer upholds his team's moral integrity.
The Prime Minister knowingly appointed a convicted fraudster to be his transport secretary. He owes the House an explanation. He said that the former transport secretary was only asked to resign after further information came to light. What was that further information?
I'm not going to disclose private conversations. Further information came to light. The Justice Secretary resigned. As I say, what a mark.
Before we move ahead, tell us, are you enjoying this video? If so, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth coverage of the major shifts shaping British politics. Now, let's continue. Internal dissent has grown stronger, with Labour members openly questioning Starmer's direction and choices. Dan Carden's demand for a nationwide investigation into grooming gangs directly opposes Starmer's push for localised probes, a position widely condemned as insufficient. In this matter, victims have revealed that officials ridiculed the assaulted teenagers.
I was abused many years. I can't go a lot into it, but I was, abused on the streets. I was brought up, I was on a care order, councils had duty of care for me, and I was ignored and I was mocked. I was laughed at. I was laughed at by certain police officers when I tried reporting the abuse. And that hasn't been easy. So many of us was fobbed off.
Why do you think that they didn't take your claims seriously? If you're a young girl being abused on the street and you're coming to the police for help, surely they should have at least listened. Why did they not take it seriously?
They didn't want to face the truth. We was problems in their eyes. When we're not the problems, we was criminalised. Abuse is a crime, and that is that. And we are human beings, And if we have to, abide to the law, then so do they. And they're supposed to be handling these reports with care. They're supposed to take our statement.
Carden contends that localized investigations fail to capture the widespread and deeply rooted nature of these offenses. He maintains that the current method denies survivors true justice and neglects to address the broader societal breakdowns that allow such horrors to persist. His remarks mirror the growing discontent within Labour over Starmer's apparent reluctance to confront politically delicate matters, likely driven by fear of public backlash. Beyond individual policies, claims of bias and preference in appointments have further damaged Starmer's image. Reports indicate he accelerated promotions for party loyalists into top civil service roles while sidestepping fair selection systems, intensifying doubts about his dedication to neutrality and capability. These actions, noted by think tanks such as the Institute for Government, portray a leader seemingly more intent on tightening political control than delivering effective administration.
We have just discovered that Keir Starmer knowingly promoted to the cabinet somebody who had been convicted of lying to the police, of obtaining goods by deception, fraud. And if you want to know why he put a fraudster in the cabinet, it is because the whole government is essentially fraudulent and misrepresented to the electorate in July 2024 what they were going to do on tax, on the economy, on Brexit, on Britain's relations with other countries. And if you want to find out more, read my column in the Daily Mail.
Moreover, several Labour members have stepped down, unable to tolerate Starmer's conduct any longer. In this regard, Rosie Duffield's departure from the party exposes serious fractures in Keir Starmer's leadership. As Canterbury's MP, Duffield resigned amid the freebies scandal, accusing Starmer of fostering a culture of corruption, favouritism, and greed. Her exit proved especially damaging, as it drew sharp attention to the moral contradictions within Starmer's administration. Duffield denounced his acceptance of extravagant perks, including designer clothing, luxury eyewear, and even access to an £18 million penthouse, while his government enforced austerity-based measures reminiscent of the Conservative Party's two-child benefit limit and reductions in winter fuel aid. These policies, she argued, inflicted disproportionate harm on the most vulnerable citizens.
So the exodus begins. After less than 3 months in power, Sir Keir Starmer has lost one of his most promising rising female stars. Rosie Duffield, Labour MP for Canterbury. Things are unravelling as we speak, and I suspect that there is way more to come. And for all of those, in particular journalists and broadcasters who have tried to trivialise this story, but were hot on the heels of Boris Johnson and Partygate, this, in my view, is just the tip of the iceberg. Rosie declared that Keir is unfit for office, inexplicably choosing to accept designer suits, whilst at the same time pursuing cruel and unnecessary policies. Watch this space, because there's more to come.
Yeah, I think I feel much the same as these Labour councillors, that our so-called left-wing, Labour offering just vanished and disappeared almost overnight. And, the public aren't stupid. They voted not just against a Tory government, but for a Labour government. And we were not offering anything that we'd been promising for the last sort of 10, 14 years in opposition. And I didn't recognise that this was a Labour government anymore. And all of the things that I'd campaigned alongside those colleagues and those leading cabinet ministers for, like the 2-child limit, WASPy women, winter fuel allowance, all of those things, just an end to child poverty, were just vanished overnight. And I couldn't, in good consciousness, say that.
In her resignation letter, Duffield issued a scathing assessment of Starmer's leadership. She depicted him as a figure encircled by a close-knit group more focused on self-interest than public duty, claiming this had stained and embarrassed Labour's heritage. She further cited Starmer's corporate-style management and overly technocratic outlook as reasons for his growing alienation from both members and voters. Furthermore, Duffield denounced the gender imbalance within Labour, accusing Starmer's mostly male entourage, known as the Lads, of sidelining female representatives like herself. This introduced an even deeper concern regarding the party's internal atmosphere, suggesting a culture dismissive of women's perspectives.
I think what's really interesting, and I was talking to Julie Bindel about this yesterday, and of course she's a woman who's been involved in the left and women's rights for decades now. There's always a joke amongst Labour women that all the old traditional trade unionists were quite sexist, and that tradition was always quite sort of freezing women out. There's always been jokes about women being found, the seats where they can't win rather than the safe seats. That's a long Labour tradition. If I was applying for my seat now, I don't know how that would go, but it was completely unwinnable, so I was left to get on with it. But the more high-profile winnable seats have traditionally been, women have been discouraged from going for those, or, it's not quite your time yet, dear, that kind of attitude.
Does Labour then have a woman problem?
My experience is only in the Labour Party, and I can't speak for other parties, but I do feel that the Labour Party does have an issue with women, yeah.
Yeah, and you said before, haven't you, that Labour Party, being in Labour Party is like being in an abusive relationship.
It has been at times for me, yeah.
And that comes from somebody who has been in one, because you talked about it in 2019.
Yeah, it's the psychological aspect of that kind of relationship where you can be loved 1 minute and showered with kind of praise and compliments and all of the stuff that you get in those kind of relationships, and then completely blanked, completely ghosted, and you're like, well, what's that about? And what did I do? And you don't know what you've done, and you spend ages trying to work it out.
Duffield has disclosed that if Starmer is removed from office, she may consider rejoining the Labour Party. This indicates that the primary cause behind many Labour members turning against their own ranks lies in Starmer himself and his manner of leadership. For this reason, analysts suggest that the movement within Labour to unseat Starmer has already started, aimed at ensuring the party's
Nonetheless, I think there is the possibility of severe turbulence ahead. And, there is a group of very, very powerful, probably they've got the intellectual edge at the moment, the Blairites. And I'm thinking of people like Wes Streeting and lots of his allies, Liz Kendall being one of his allies and stuff, inside, the reformers inside government. And there is the soft left, who would probably gather, as it were, under the Angela Rayner banner these days, I think. But Louise Hay would certainly be part of that instinct. And I just really, really hope they don't go to war with each other. Because if that happens, then I think the British public will say, they're exactly like the Tories. They're obsessed with each other. Here we go again. Here we go again. What about us?
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. It will be less than a year into a landslide victory.
It would be catastrophic. It would be absolutely catastrophic. And I'm just worried that I can see the first signs of it happening already.
I think one of the things to always remember in the Labour Party is even when there isn't a vacancy, there is always a contest. And it's always going on in private. And it's actually starting to seep out in public. So I think it was at the Spectator Awards, we had Angela Rayner bantering with Wes Streeting about the next...
Is Keir Starmer among the weakest prime ministers the UK has seen? Isn't it clear that the scandals and secret schemes surrounding him could easily destroy his political future? Share your opinions about Starmer, his record, and who you plan to support in the next election in the comments below. Would you like to see more videos like this? If so, please like, share, and subscribe for regular updates on British politics and the forces reshaping it. Until the next video, stay tuned.